Welcome to another episode of Thoughts of it. Oh wait, wrong one. Welcome to another episode of Becoming a Techno Wizard. That was not on purpose. That was definitely a 100% an accident. I did my techno my Thoughts of a Trillionaire podcast this morning. So I guess that was. But anyways, this is gonna be. I'm really excited for this. All right, it's gonna be a whole new other type of episode on this channel that I want to explore reactions, an actual reaction to a podcast. All right. I don't know how this is going to play out, but I listen to like dozens of podcasts, a little bit less now because my routine, before the pandemic was like on my 3 hour freaking commute on the train, bus, and all that. I would just listen to podcasts, read, and all that stuff. So now that I'm always at home, it's kind of hard to figure out a time, to do all that stuff. So I figured, while I was, put two and two together, I want to do more videos. But I don't want to. I, be, I get frustrated, going over my website, my crappy website all the time. So, I don't want to focus on that. And there's some other stuff. But anyways, I always want to do this anyways. All right, I always wanted to do this. I always wanted to, kind of share my thoughts on these podcasts as I was having them, because when I go to write them down, it doesn't flow as well. And when I try to remember what I heard, what I was thinking when I first listened to the podcast, and then go back and do a podcast about that, it doesn't flow as well. So I figured I might as well do a real reaction type of thing, but also a breakdown to where I'm just sharing my thoughts on these podcasts. So I'm gonna start with one of my favorite all-time podcasts, The Anatomy of Next. Okay, The Anatomy of Next. And they're the people who made this podcast are the Founders Fund, people from the Founders Fund. And as you know, earlier in this channel, I read through their manifesto. So they're good people's, really really cool, ambitious folks, and their podcast. There's like 2 seasons to it or something like that. 45 episodes, and this is the latest one of the latest episodes, posted on July 27th, called House Factory with guest Alexis Rivas. So I'm going to listen to this one, and if I have time, I'll do the next one too. I'm excited about this next one too, Nano City. I might, depending on how this goes, go back and just re-listen to all the other ones and do a reactions on those. It won't be a reaction, but I don't know. But anyways, without further ado, let us begin. I'm not going to share my screen because there's no point. It's a podcast. You'll see my pretty face this whole time. Here we go.
Last episode, we tackled the housing crisis in San Francisco, and that is a problem that has, totally metastasized in this city. But it is also a problem throughout a lot of this country. It is not, however, a problem in Japan. It's not even really much of a problem in Tokyo. I think most critically, the Japanese government has structured into their society a very well-defended right to build. And when that happens, it turns out, people tend to build. But another big piece of affordability in Japan is, in significant contrast to the United States, the way many Japanese people think about housing and the kind of housing in Japan that tends to be popular. Notably, new homes are overwhelmingly preferred to old. And prefabricated homes, or prefabs, are a big part of this ecosystem. So I thought it would be fun to talk about that a little bit today.
All right, I'm already excited because this idea I've been thinking about for a long time. Is that when you look at housing, when you look at poverty and stuff like that, a huge problem is this problem with blight, right? With really old housing, or people living in these old houses and buildings and whatnot that decay, and they could have been they used to be really great, but they haven't been upkept, they haven't been maintained for years, for decades. And so the living conditions become really bad. And furthermore, they create an environment that is inherently negative, that is inherently not good. If you're living in a house that's 40, 50, 100 years old, or more, then it could be having all sorts of problems, everything from utilities to just keeping uh, inhalation, no, insulation, goodness, heating and stuff like that. And this becomes a serious problem because not only do you have, do you end up having to spend a lot of money trying to fix those problems, and the likely chance is that if you can't afford to remodel your house, you can't afford to you know fix all these problems that happen. If you're in a 100-year-old house and the electricity is stupid, or the water sewage system doesn't work correctly, you probably didn't have enough money to remodel the house in the first place. So when something goes wrong, that is coming out of your paycheck to paycheck living expenses. So I think this is a huge problem, especially in America, but maybe likely other places in the world where people are living in places that are really old, and we don't really have a set system in place in our society to increase or refurbish these houses on a regular basis. We just make a new house, and then and then the old house kind of loses value, or whatever. And people that move in there are usually on the poorer end, can't afford it, so it just gets worse, and it's just a trickling problem. It's a race to the bottom. It's a downward spiral. So yeah, I'm interested in seeing where this goes.
I'm Alexis Rivas, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Cover. At Cover, our mission is to make thoughtfully designed and well-built homes for everyone. The way we're doing that is by making homes inside of a factory, and then we design and engineer and permit the homes using software that we've developed to streamline that entire process.
Alexis and
Yeah, once again, another really great idea that I've had for a long time. It's so awesome seeing people do this. I was worried. I was like, why am I the only one thinking about this stuff? Like, why is there nobody, with actual talent, with actual resources, working on this stuff? Like the idea of making a house, making a building in a factory, in a is a it's a no-brainer. I think it's just like the reason why vehicles became mass produced was because of the factory model. The whole Henry Ford and his conveyor belt model. You can create these vehicles, create these pieces, or create these products piece by piece, um and it allows you to create a, a lot more of the product, and you can have a lot more modularity, and it just makes so much sense. So the fact that we don't do this for our buildings, for our houses, is kind of insane. Sure, people might say, oh, it's you can't make a house in a factory, you have to build it on site, right? But it just doesn't make sense when you break down what a house is. It's a bunch of pieces, it's a bunch of you know different pieces that you put together on site. So you don't have to build it all on site, especially now in today's environment where we know every component of our house. Like you have the foundation, you got the structure and all that stuff, you got the beams, you got the utilities from the wiring, plumbing, all this stuff. All the different pieces are modular pieces. These aren't bespoke pieces. All of these houses basically, we often live in neighborhoods, suburban neighborhoods, that look the same because they're basically factory made, but for some reason we make them on site and not like an actual factory where we can control different aspects, where we can quality control, where we can create modular pieces so that if something breaks down, you can just buy another one from the factory and put it in your house. I mean, oof, oof, sheesh, man. But yeah, okay, here we
I
go.
talked about what exactly prefab homes are, the history of prefabs in America, how technology is improving the prefab process, and how this kind of thing could dramatically reduce housing costs in the US. And quick little production note here, there are a few little audio quirks in this interview. Apologies, I recorded this one with Alex remotely just at the top of the pandemic, and I was still navigating a few things, not least of all the abysmal internet connection in my very old San Francisco residence. Frankly, I, for one, am ready to start thinking about those new homes. From
I
Founders
feel you.
Fund, I'm Mike Solana, and this is Anatomy of Next.
That'd be you up
Now,
next.
there's a lot I want to get to in this interview. I want to talk about the malleability of cities, property ownership, just in general. I want to talk about how we change, everything that we're looking at, start over, and crash it down. I want to talk about the nature of homes that we're going to be constructing in the future. But I mean, right off the bat, it sounds like we're talking about prefab homes. And this is something that was somewhat of a trend back in what the 50s and the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. You mentioned yourself to me that Sears had an entire like home prefab home section where they would sell these prefab homes to people. It's pretty popular, certainly
Yes.
abroad. In Japan, the whole prefab thing is pretty popular, but here not so much. What exactly is a prefab home? Let's just start there. How is it different than what we're looking at today?
A prefab home.
Oh shoot, my bad. I'm gonna be clicking on stuff. Oh no.
Reasons there. I'm wondering, what is it in construction? Why are designing the thing, carving it, whittling it, whatever? It's like IKEA back in what the 50s and the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. You mentioned yourself to me that
Software that we've developed to streamline that entire process.
Alexis and I talked about what exactly prefab homes are, the
Sorry,
history of America, how technology is in the prefab process, and the thing could radically reduce housing costs in the US. And quick little production note, a little off this interview. Apologies, I recorded Alex remotely, the pandemic, and a few things, not least of all in my very old San Francisco for ready to start thinking about those new homes. From Founders Fund and
All right.
now, there's a
I'm not
lot I
gonna
want
touch
to
stuff there
get to in
anymore.
this interview. I want to talk about the
Uh,
malleability of cities, property ownership, just in general. I want to talk about how we change, everything that we're looking at, start over, crash it down. I want to talk about the nature of homes that we're going to be constructing in the future. But I mean, right off the bat, it sounds like we're talking about prefab homes. And this is something that was somewhat of a trend back in what the 50s and the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. You mentioned yourself to me that Sears had an entire like home prefab home section where they would sell these prefab homes to people. It's pretty popular, certainly
Yes.
abroad. In Japan, the whole prefab thing is pretty popular, but here not so much. What exactly is a prefab home? Let's just start there. How is it different than what we're looking at today?
A prefab home is a home where either part of it, all of it, or big components of it are built inside of a factory and then assembled on the final property. That's what a prefab home is.
I'm imagining literally like a house pulling up to a lot and just like plopping it on the ground. Like literally you bought it from a store and it shows up.
Some prefab homes can be like that. Most of them are more like room size blocks, or the way we do it is wall panels, floor panels, and ceiling panels that have electrical, plumbing, insulation, waterproofing already installed from the factory, and then we deliver it and assemble it on site.
See, this is so freaking dope. Like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, this is so dope. Like to see that this is, happening. Because a couple of years ago, I was like, why don't we make our buildings like Lego pieces, where you have set pieces of whatever component you want to create, and you just stack it on your other one. You can wire in, you can kind of hardwire certain types of wiring, certain types of plumbing and whatnot, and it just slots together, because that's how a lot of our housing works today. It kind of slots together, and the reason why they're so messy is because whenever people are remodeling or building it out or whatever, they're cutting corners. They're just trying to strap things together real quick, and so that's why you have like really ugly wiring for electricity, and you have electrical problems later on down the line because people are being sloppy, people are being messy with it. But if you have these prefabricated pieces that already have wiring, that already have plumbing, kind of lined into the walls, then you have to put it together in a correct way. You can't just cut corners with it. So it's really cool to see people working on this stuff. I can see why some people might say, oh, this is impractical or whatever, because people want to be able to create a house, or create like a house in layers, right? You can create a structure of it. You put the pillars and whatnot, then you put the electric wiring, or put the plumbing, or whatever the layer, whatever their order is, that maybe they like to go in a specific order for it. And so I suppose I can see that way, but again, it just doesn't make that much sense when you're thinking of, when you consider the fact that if we live in these buildings for decades, we're going to need to be able to repair them in a more cost efficient and energy efficient method. Having to rip out entire walls, like half your walls, just to replace a faulty wiring, or faulty pipeline or something like that is ridiculous. So yeah, definitely component pieces makes so much sense.
Right. So then it's more like, rather than building a desk from scratch, sanding down the wood and assembling the pieces, like designing the thing, carving it, whittling it, whatever. It's like IKEA furniture, but it's a house.
I think Legos is probably the best
See,
analogy.
Awesome.
Legos.
So, what are some of the ways that what you're doing is different than what folks like Sears were doing?
Prefab is not a new idea, right? It's been around for a while. When you look at how most companies build homes inside of a factory, it's actually the same as conventional construction, just in a factory. So what I mean by that is they typically build with 2x4s, right? Wood and hammers and nails and drywall and all of the same conventional materials and methods. Whereas what we're doing is we're redesigning the way that the home is built from the ground up to be geared towards manufacturability from the start. And so when you take any product, whether it's electronic, furniture, cars, and you move its production process into a factory, they always go through a massive design and engineering kind of change in order to make it geared towards manufacturability. And no one has done that before
Mhm.
for homes. And that's what we're doing at Cover.
One thing that is just like absolutely destroying San Francisco right now is the housing affordability crisis. People can't afford homes here. That manifests mostly in rents because there's so few homes built. There aren't a lot of new homeowners in the city. Mostly people are renting from pre-existing homeowners. Costs are insane. There are a lot of reasons that houses are expensive here. It's like property. It's just want to go.
Oh.
So property costs are pretty high just to begin with.
Yeah, I think he's gonna go on to say that, and I like to do this, when I listen to podcasts, kind of to guess what they're gonna say, just to see if my theories are correct. And I think he's gonna talk about how the fact is that one of the reasons these houses are so expensive, in addition to everything he's talking about, is because it's so hard to remodel a home, right? To fit to bring it up to modern day standards, right? Because they were created on site. People, patch together all these beams and all these other things, and so in order to repair that house, in order to remodel and give maintenance to that house, you have to like get a whole bunch of warrants, not warrants, but what's the term? Licenses, not licenses, whatever. But you have to get like city guidelines, permission basically to to bring big machines onto the place. If you have to do something really in depth, you might have to, basically deconstruct the house in a way, just to fix something that's on a foundational level, or to fix something that's on a more internal side, or it might just take a long time because of weather, because of the how it might be connected to the grid wrong or something like that, or you know uh, just the environment, noise or pollution, or any number of problems that happens because instead of being able to just take a piece out and put a new piece in, you have to deconstruct the whole thing. And so that is really prohibitive to remodel something. The fact that if it takes more effort to fix something than to just make a new one, then people are not going to fix it. They're going to make new houses. They're going to do all that crap. So that's why you have this huge. I think that's one of the bigger reasons why you have this huge housing crisis in America, especially in really urban cities.
The city itself doesn't want to build anything, which is a whole other bag that we can get into in a bit. But it's also just really expensive to build here. This is somewhat unique. Across the Western world, it's really expensive to build. There are places where it's not so expensive to build, where it's just less. And there are lots of reasons there. I'm wondering, what is it in construction? Why are construction costs so high? And why is the kind of stuff that you're doing a potential solution to at least this one part of the housing crisis?
So I asked the exact same question when I was working in conventional construction, at an architecture firm. I studied architecture, and I said, why is construction so expensive? And what I realized was it was the coordination between all of the different parties involved in the process that made it so expensive. It wasn't the cost of the materials or the cost of hammering up a wall. It was all the coordination between the architects, the engineers, the
Mm.
client, the plumbers, electricians, the drywall crew, the framers, the painters, right? I could list and just go on. You have more than a dozen parties involved in every construction process. it's trying to figure out how do I put the electrical through so that it doesn't interfere with the plumbing, or where can I cut a hole in the wall stud and it's not going to compromise the structural integrity of the home. All of these questions.
Hmm. Oh, what happened? What in the world? No. I'm gonna have to pause this, figure out what happened here. Okay, I'm back. Looks like the Wi-Fi cut out. So I'm on my hotspot on my phone. Hopefully it won't be messed up or lag too much or anything like that. Here we go.
The trades are all separate, come up during the construction process. That's what drives up the cost. And so, the question that I started asking was, what if we could eliminate all of that coordination by making building a home more like a product, where
Yeah, so this is different. This is different from what I was thinking, but it's along the same veins. The fact that there is so much that goes into making to constructing something on site. I was focusing just on the materials, like the putting everything together and stuff like that. But he was focused on the people. And as always, in every business, the people are the most expensive part of your business, almost always, right? The employees. And so I can definitely see how this is even greater problem is that you have all these people that have to come together from all different aspects. Like most of the time, these aren't even like the one company doing everything. It might be a whole bunch of different companies, or a family of companies, or something like that. That has to come together to construct a building. So being able to create a factory based model will definitely streamline that position, that you can have a company that employs all these types of people under one umbrella. And so that will make it much simpler for them to work together to create any sort of building and stuff like that. And then other people that want to actually construct their house, they can just buy different components and slice them together. um, that does enter to some problems with monopoly, right? Monopolistic um, kind of power in this field. But this is not a this this is not a like a like the idea is something that's not wait, what's the term I'm looking for? Like you can't really stop other people from making a company like this, right? I'm pretty sure he has his own technology that makes it really good, like makes his factory model really good. But any company, any other type of company could spring up with the same model. Um, it's just a matter of paying attention to the the experience, to the environment, and realizing that this is an opportunity, and this is a very very lucrative opportunity that can happen. And the more people that play in this field, the more unique and innovative and um, just awesome that we can have our buildings, that we can have our construction ideas. If we can change the paradigm of how to construct from on-site construction to prefab, then that will be I think that would be a net good.
there's a well-known process and way of building it, and it's done in a repeatable, scalable way. And that's how we lower those costs, so that you're not paying for the time for someone to figure out where something can be built, or where the plumbing can go through the and how that interacts with the vents. Right? What you're paying for is people just doing the work, not
Hmm.
figuring it out, which is usually the majority of the project time is just figuring things out.
It does seem like if you could just eliminate all of that coordination between people on the ground, that things would be a lot cheaper. But
Just a brief aside, it's just hilarious that when you think about it, this model that we have today of the traditional way of building anything is it's kind of ridiculous. It's like starting from zero, almost zero, every time you build something. So every single time they build a house, they have to think about how do you make sure the plumbing isn't messing up with this, the electricity isn't messing with this, right? Sure, there might be principles, there might be certain building blocks they can build upon, and whatnot, but the majority of the time, every single house you build, you still have to think about these problems. So that's like when you build a car, one person, like one team is going to be building the engine, and another team has to figure out how the engine is going to fit in the in the chassis, and another team is going to figure out how the ventilation of the car is going to work, and another team is going to figure out how to put the tires on there, so and all this other stuff. Like it's kind of ridiculous when you think about it, and it's like for every single car, right? It doesn't. It's no wonder that our system is so messed up. Our housing, ability our ability to construct houses is so backwards right now. So yeah, I definitely think this is a game breaking kind of idea right here. Again, it's not a new idea, but it's finally being pushed again, especially in America. So that's pretty awesome.
I'm wondering just how much cheaper. Can you give me some sense of what sort of scale would you need to hit to actually impact affordability in construction? And I mean, what is the comp there? What are we talking about? Like, is there a comparison to something else that exists in society? I'm wondering, and like, how much money are we talking? What is the difference in price potentially?
Yeah, even though cars are a very different product from a home, they're the most similar product because they're a product of something that people go into, right? That several people go into. They have to be air conditioned or heated. There's windows. They have to be structurally rigid and safe. There's a lot of safety requirements for fire, crash. They're probably the most similar product. And a Toyota Camry costs $240 per square foot. Now, nobody really looks at cars per square foot, but we did that. And and most homes in California cost more than that to build, which is insane considering how complex a car is, right? A car is actually a far more complex product than a home because a car has doubly curved surfaces. It has hundreds of moving parts. It has the AC and motorized windows and all these compressed into a small area. So if you can build a car with all these features
Yeah,
at
comparing car.
$240 a square foot, there's no reason you can't build homes when you're building at the same volume as cars for a tenth of that. From a kind of volume standpoint, we're actually building more square footage of homes per year than we are of cars.
Hmm.
It's not just getting cheaper, you can get cheaper and better quality for a tenth of the cost.
A tenth of the cost.
Yes.
So that is just, we're talking now,
Dang, that's amazing.
this is just the cost to build. Like, I did not realize that, I knew that housing in, for example, San Francisco is just insane, but I did not realize, and I knew the cost to build was also very high. I didn't realize it was that high, that just that one piece is that crazy.
Yeah, the construction side of the cost is high. And what that means is that by lowering the construction cost, you make it economically feasible to build on far more property.
Hmm.
Even if the zoning stays the same, now all of a sudden it makes sense to replace a 5-story apartment building with an 8-story apartment building because the cost of construction is so low, right? And house 30-40% more people.
Right. One sort of weird thing that I've learned while working on this project is the cultural differences between places that are building and places that aren't. So in Japan, for example, where there is no housing crisis, not even in Tokyo, you can get a reasonably priced place in Tokyo, one of the most important cities in the world. Everyone wants to go there, right? It's like a high demand to live there, also affordability. But outside of Tokyo, I mean, housing is so cheap. I've heard anecdotes of people trying to give houses away. And that comes from, one, they're just building.
This is crazy because Tokyo is like literally the most limited in terms of space, right? The most limited country in the world in terms of space, I think. I'm pretty sure. And they're one of the most densely populated. So the fact that they don't have a housing crisis, while we in America have like dumb amount of space around here, and still can't seem to build affordable housing. Uh, what more evidence do you need that this is a serious problem? Like we need to have a much more cheaper, more safe, more more sense making construction methods. And yeah, this boggles my mind right here.
There are no impediments from the government to building. Everything is sort of centralized in the capital of Japan. They make the rules for the entire country, and people are basically allowed to build whatever they want to build in terms of housing. That's one. But
So dope.
two, probably government is just downstream of the cultural piece, and that is people in Japan don't want old houses. They do not want to live in a house that someone else once lived in. It's seen as kind of weird. They want the newer model, the newest model. It's like they think of it almost more like we think of iPhones or computers, right?
That's
You want the
crazy.
next thing, the better thing, or cars to a large extent. In America, it's just not like that at all. I mean, I live in San Francisco and people want to live in these 150-year-old Victorian houses. They want ghost stories. They want something that feels, quote, lived in. It's like they want the history.
Mm,
What is your sense of that, of navigating the cultural
it's
differences
interesting too.
here? And do you see that changing? Do you see that? Am I correct that that's even really impacting things here? What do you think?
The cultural differences are huge, and that's part of the reason that prefabrication hasn't become the norm. People want something that's tailored to their needs, that's specific to the property. They don't want, copy paste. And a lot of prefab historically has been copy paste.
Yeah.
One of the things that's really exciting.
So yeah, this is really I think the sticking point for a lot of people is that which is crazy because a lot of people say they don't want copy paste or they don't want to live in the same house as their neighbor, blah 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 blah. But look around, like in America, we have these stupid amounts of suburban, suburbias or whatever, but it's just literally copy paste, like everything from townhomes to these suburban houses. It's just the same type of house, and they're not prefab. They're just built on site. I might be wrong. Maybe some of those are prefab, but I think uh, there's this misconception that just because it's made in a factory, it means that you can't have uniqueness. It means that you can't have something different and something that's more you, that's made for you. So people think that they need to shop around and find a house with history because it has unique architecture, it has unique this, that, and the other. But the problem with that is, like I said in the beginning, those houses are almost always extremely expensive to renovate, to remodel. And so you have this dichotomy of this classism effect that happens there. And everybody else who may still want to live in their own unique house are kind of, I don't want to say forced, but they're almost incentivized or pushed into living in suburbias or the hood or something like that, where it's kind of crappy and boring. um, and we live in a crappy and boring environment. We as humans and any other animal responds to that environment. You become kind of crappy and boring. I just gotta say. uh, but anyways, that's a whole other thing. But I just want to comment on it because that's something that's been on my mind as well about prefabrication. But like I said in the beginning, it's like Lego pieces, and you can have all Lego pieces are factory made. You don't sit there and make your Lego. You get those pieces and you put them together, and you can construct them any sort of way. That's what people don't realize, is that when you have prefabrication to this level where everything is components, where everything is modularized, then you can construct your own dream house as whatever you want to do. You can construct it because everything is just a Lego piece. You could just buy this piece there, that piece there, that piece there, and put it together. People don't realize that. They think, oh, the whole house is going to be the same as everything else out there. It's not true. That's not true. So yeah, this is really really cool to hear.
Is because of software and computation that we have available to us today, we can now do custom homes at scale using software to do the mass customization component. So rather than hiring a structural engineer to do thousands of dollars of engineering work for each custom home, you can actually use software to do that in seconds. And that's what we're doing. So every home that we deliver has a unique floor plan that's suited to that specific property and that specific homeowner's
That's
preferences.
so dope.
I
Oh
think
my
that's one
gosh.
big component is, if you could trade it for an old home of character that's not cookie cutter, right, with a new home that is cookie cutter and kind of in these large, 1,000 home developments, most people will want that historic place that's tailored to that property. I do think that Victorian, having a Victorian home in San Francisco is definitely the exception rather than norm. Most Americans live in, large scale developments that were built, sometime in the last century.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
interesting. It's like the assumption that I made in the question is just totally wrong. You're right. You have these just well-storied cookie cutter housing developments. I mean, literally we have songs like, what is it, Tiny Boxes or whatever, talking just about this. And so I guess, yeah, in a world of, let's say, your company at scale, this process becomes more normalized. Obviously, you're going to be able to further customize things sort of on the fly. And maybe it's just that. It's like the bones of a house, people don't care so much about. It's the aesthetic differences, and those maybe aren't really that hard to change.
Exactly. Because it's built in a factory and because we're doing the customization component with software, we can actually allow you to have a high degree of variability in the design of the home.
Yo, that's so freaking cool, man. That's so freaking cool. Dude, this is it's like my dream come true. Um, Yeah, because a lot of people don't realize that, when it comes to constructing a unique house, the fact that we construct everything on premise means that you have to go through the calculations of, you have to have architectures and structural engineers and this, that, and the other to make sure these unique architectures actually are sound. You have to make sure it stands up. It won't just fall, the slightest wind or something like that, right? You have to construct everything according to the environment. Like if you live in LA, you have to construct something that will respond to earthquakes. You have to be able to stand up to that. If it's in Georgia, it has to stand up to high heat or whatever. If it's in the middle plains, it could be high winds, tornadoes, and stuff like that. So you can't just create, the most unique house and everything like that, because you need to spend a lot of money getting people to sit there and figure out, how this will actually work. So the fact that we can use technology like software to just run simulations and whatever, make sure all these different things are structurally engineered. You can just craft like your Lego piece on a software or whatever, and then have them build it out. That's just oh my gosh, uh this is beautiful, bro. This is beautiful. So I'm gonna look up this company because I don't know how they're functioning, but I think it'll be really, really dope if they can have an interface where you can go in and like design your dream house, right? You can do really wild stuff, and it will have like the AI on there will be able to tell you, hey, this is a realistic, construction. This is how much it will cost for this, or this is the type of components you need, or this is the environmental factors you need to consider, and it will help you kind of make your dream a reality, you know, um, and to create make it an interface. I say that because being able to make like your dream car, people love to do that. With today's like kind of vehicle interfaces, people like to do that with shoes. People like to do that with all sorts of products nowadays, and this is becoming more and more of a trend with 3D printing. Being able to 3D print like your ideal product. Not only is it more efficient on the construction end, because now you don't have to mass produce. You can make on demand, and it's cheaper. It'll be cheaper to make on demand. At the same time, you waste less resources, because even though production has allowed us to create, an abundance in vehicles, is also create too much of an abundance, a waste, a pollution. So now we have all these vehicles, we have all these things that we can't use, and so you know it's just kind of wasteful. But now that we can create on demand, you can just go in and be like, I want this, that, and the other, this is how it's going to look, whatever, and then it's just created on demand with prefabrication or 3D printing or whatever. And then people come in and just plop it down on your plot of land, and it's done. It's like you can build it faster, you can build more unique, you can build more cost efficiently, more safely. It's just awesome all around, man. All around, this is a huge innovation, a huge just growth spurt to humanity if this can become a mass, um, if this can attain mass adoption. If more people can get access to stuff like this. Like, oh my gosh, this is why this podcast is like the best, what pretty much my all-time favorite podcast, because it explores really awesome ideas like this, and it shows you people who are doing this now. This is not pie in the sky stuff. This is not like, me dreaming of wanting to do this, that, and the other. This is people out there making this stuff happen. And yeah, this stuff inspires me, motivates me so much, man. This is, oh gosh, oh gosh. Here we go. Let's continue.
What is it about the software that allows that?
If we didn't have the software, all the management of how you transform the client's idea of what they want. So, I want a 2-bedroom unit with 2 bathrooms, and I want to have a view towards this beautiful tree in my backyard, right? And I want sun to come through the bedroom window in the morning. So I want the bedroom to be on the east side, right? So taking those set of preferences,
Oh
and
gosh.
taking all of the constraints, the zoning constraints, the property constraints, and creating a design, and then taking that design and knowing exactly how to build it down to the level of the screw. You know,
Sheesh.
that's the process that usually
I'm
is
about to
where all
cry,
the
man.
coordination and time goes and costs go. It's figuring out, you know, how we take the idea and translate it into a specific physical thing. The software that we're building does all of that, right? It's the structural engineer, it is the architect, and it's also the general contractor in that it provides instructions of here is the exact wall to
See,
build,
see,
this
oh
length, this height,
gosh.
you know, all of
Oh
the
my goodness.
specifics. And so you get a custom home at the end of the day, right? It's tailored to your needs and your property without the insane costs and, you know, the high costs that you normally see with high-end custom homes.
I've been thinking the
Let me
ability of cities,
let
how
me
easy
pause this, man. This is so freaking cool. Oh my. Like this is literally my dream come true, man. This is insane. Like this is what I was thinking like years ago and have been thinking like almost every time I think about, oh, how do I make my dream house, you know? I was thinking about like this is the type of stuff I wanted to make my podcast on like having a I was even thinking like this could be like my future job where, you know, you create like software that allows you to create like the perfect city, the perfect house, whatever your dream house, perfection, not as in, you know, just something that you really enjoy, you know, because perfection is a never ending goal. But the fact that you can be like, oh, I want this tree in the background, you know, I want to be able to look out my house and see a river or whatever, and I want the sun to come down when I wake up in the morning. It allows us to build houses truly to our exact specifications to what we truly enjoy. And the fact that it's prefabricated and it's modular, that means you can, if you change your mind later on, you can be like, oh, okay, I want to change this window out and put a new one in, or put, you know, change this wall out and put a different one in, and it won't be as expensive. It won't be as just dreary to, you know, do all that work to make your changes for your dream house, because our dreams ever change. You know, our ideas of what is a good house, a good, you know, living area changes as we grow. So being able to have a Lego like, you know, construction building, you know, housing, just you get it. Like you have to get it. Like this is so freaking dope, man. Oh gosh, I really gotta look them up. I gotta see how exactly they're doing this. We'll do this at the end of the video because uh, this is so freaking cool, man. Oh
or
gosh.
not at all easy it is to change something in a city once it's there. We all have
Hmm.
these ideas, I think, looking forward of some future like Jetsons looking city, you know, even a couple decades from now, where the skyline is dramatically transformed. But the reality is that's almost certainly not going to happen because moving a giant skyscraper around is just really, really hard. That's at the macro scale. Like once you build something that big, it's almost impossible to take it down, not just in terms of construction, which is extremely expensive to break something down and move it out and rebuild something, but also just legally. The
Hmm.
government does not like to let you change things in these cities, in Western, sort of American, certainly American cities.
Yep.
It's really hard to move things around. A lot of that comes from the culture, the community, which in San Francisco, certainly the people who own houses don't want to see anything built. But I wonder often if that's because they also know how incredibly hard it
Yeah.
is to build something new. Once something
Yeah. A lot of these times, um these cultures of, you know, traditionalism, of conservatism, of, you know, not wanting to change things, it doesn't necessarily come from people just wanting to be like, you know, conservative or stuck in the mud. Don't get me wrong, there is a use for conservatism and for traditionalism, but when it comes to, you know, hey, knowing that your city needs to change, your house needs to change, your, you know, these buildings need to change, this nimbyism and stuff like that, the reason that, or all that stuff usually comes from a inherently rational idea that it's too difficult, you know, it's too dangerous, you know. You have a huge a huge, you know, skyscraper, how you going to take it down? Like there's literally an art and a science in a really expensive, you know, business to deconstructing buildings, because you can't just, you know, blow it up in the middle of a city. You can't just, you know, get some big I don't know, wrecking ball or whatever and just hit it. You know, you have all. It's in the middle of a city. Like they literally have. They were literally showcase. I was seeing on the BIM. I got to do some reactions on there, but they have that's a construction shot of the BIM or B1M, where they show different construction things of around the world, and they were showing how in New York, you know, when you have a huge building that you want to take down, which they actually are doing now, you know, it's extremely it costs billions of dollars to bring up like a tarp around it and to carefully deconstruct it so it doesn't just fall flat and kill everybody around there, or so you don't have a ton of dust causing more air pollution in the area and stuff like that, or the noise, or the materials that you need to bring in there, the people that needs to be in there, all this stuff. Construction is extremely dangerous, expensive, whatever. It's really hard, and so people know that. People know that, and so that's why people are so conservative. That's why people are so against this idea. And then they try to rationalize it and say, "Oh no, I just want traditionals or whatever. I just want blah 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 blah." But inherently, for most rational people, and most people are rational deep down, but it comes from that knowledge that is very dangerous, is very hard. And so if we can simplify this process, we can make it safer, cheaper, easier to do, and more fun, then people are going to change their mind. People are going to change their culture. They're going to change their behavior, because our behaviors reflect our environments. They reflect our constraints. If we have less constraints, then we can have more creativity. So, oh man, this is why I love this stuff so much. Let's
Goes
go.
up, it's like it's there forever. So in a world where that wasn't the case, like if you could just try something out for a minute and get rid of it, or change it, or go back to what you had before within a reasonable period of time, maybe people would be more open to change. I'm
Mhm.
wondering if what you're working on, I kind of got the sense this might be the case, could just get us to a place where taking things down and putting them back up is a lot easier and faster. Like we could not just build new things, but could we change them around a lot more?
Yeah. Even today, with our current building system, if you wanted to take a two-bedroom, two-bathroom house and turn it into two separate units for two different groups of people to live in, you can unclip all of the wall panels on the interior, all of the ceiling panels on the interior, reroute the plumbing, reroute the electrical, and put them all back up without needing to even repaint.
Oh,
As opposed to with conventional construction, tearing up the whole wall,
this shit
weeks of work.
dope.
How long would something
Oh
like
my
that take?
gosh.
I mean, the taking down and putting up of the walls, you could do easily in a day,
Dang.
especially with the electrical and the plumbing.
Oh my gosh, this is like, dude, do y'all hear this? Do y'all hear this? This is like magic, bro. This is exact. Oh, I can't contain myself. Like, this is insane. This is insane. Exactly like what the hell I'm talking about, man. You know how hard it is to sit there and deconstruct your freaking walls if you want to remodel your kitchen or whatever, your bathroom, whatever. You gotta take down the walls, you gotta pick more stuff, man. You gotta go find whatever you gotta use and then rebuild it back up. And it's gotta repaint the whole thing afterwards. It takes weeks and weeks and months to reconstruct. I can't tell you how many people I know that have helped to rebuild their, this or that and the other. And it just takes so long, and it's so much money, and that's why you have so many people with incomplete projects and stuff like that, because it's just, oh my gosh, like, dude, man, this is goodness, bro, this is bro, this is like my bet. This is the best episode so far. I don't know, they had some really good stuff before, but this is like straight into my dreams. It's like somebody saw me sleeping and daydreaming, was like, let me put this out in the world, let me make this a reality, man. This is God, bro. This is the universe. This is, goodness, this is so dope. I'm sorry, y'all. This is, wow. Do y'all understand? Please tell me you have to understand what's going on here, man. All right, let's continue.
Really depends on how well organized you go into it and how many people you have. But you're looking at less than a week for sure. And It's not messy, right? It's not like a dusty, messy process. In the future, that goes beyond just the interiors, right? Where you can add rooms, you can add levels, you
Shape the
can
whole house, man. You
add
can just.
windows where there were previously walls. All of these different changes by building homes.
This is great. Ah, I'm sorry. I just can't, man. I just. Like literally last month, right? I was talking with my girl. I was like, we were talking about our dream house, what kind of dream house we want to live in. I could show you the messages. I was like, I want to have a house where we can change it, where it's like I was telling her what I was imagining it looked like, and I was like, in the beginning, it'll have like no real bedrooms on the top floor, and then as we have our kids, we can construct our bedroom, so they can choose. We can let them choose, how they want their bedroom to look like, how big it's going to be, what the shape is going to be, stuff like that. So give them some agency as they grow, and as they get older, they can have more and more agency of how their bedroom is constructed, and so you can add on to the house, um, as we build our family. So instead of having to buy a new house, or do this or that and the other, we just change, the inside, or we just change, the structure of the house without having to spend all this stuff. And this is exactly what I was thinking. It's like you would have a component based methods. You would have, these modular constructions that you can add on to there. And so, oh my gosh, I was worried that I was gonna have to somehow figure out how to invent this thing, because I don't have like the knowledge of how to do this. I know that. Like, I was hoping so bad, like like other people would do this, and I don't have to worry about it. I could just, hey, cool. I'll use your service. This is goodness, man. Literally, dreams come true, man. This is why I love like where the time that we live in right now, because despite all the craziness going on, we live in an incredible time of progression, of innovation, and we're finally kind of waking up from the like that deep dark dream we had before of not really believing in the future and having this apocalyptic scenarios and stuff like that. You have more and more people out there that's just trying to make the world better. You have more and more people out there that's just trying to do something great and awesome and amazing and magical. And so that's why it's so cool seeing this, or hearing this. Damn, this is so dope. Sheesh.
The fact that designing them and engineering them to be assembled rapidly, you're also making it easier to disassemble them rapidly and change them quicker too. I think there's also a really big component to this, which is, once you make it easier to modify homes and change, and the speed isn't super slow because of construction, the regulatory and the ownership model has to change to kind of evolve to that speed.
It doesn't make
Yes.
sense to hold up construction and to worry about it, and if it's not, really loud and annoying and I don't know, affecting everybody else around you.
So you're not going to need a whole bunch of permissions and licenses and all this stuff that you got to pay for just to add something to your house. Like in my arcade, we bought some new light fixtures, and then we realized that there was no wiring, in that part of the ceiling, and so we would have to get an electrician to wire a whole thing through there. But because we didn't have the lease, like we rent the place, we don't own it, so we have to get a whole new type of lease or a whole new type of permissions just to put wiring to put in the new light fixtures. So now we have these cool IKEA light fixtures with no light bulb, with no like light in them. It's just, it's just like stuff like this is really what changes the world. Really, what makes it so awesome. And decades from now, we're gonna look back at this time and be like, wow, that was the changing point. Like, you know, we grew up in a time where it was so difficult to build a house, to live it, to find your ideal house, or any type of building, anything from your office space to your living area, was extremely difficult. You had to use, we're just gonna look at today, and which we're gonna laugh, man. We're gonna because we're gonna be able to live in a time where we can literally build our dream house like on the fly, and then upgrade it, on a regular basis. We're gonna look back at now and be like, what the hell were we doing? Like this is like living in a caveman type of thing. Like we I can't, man. This is amazing. This is really dope. I didn't think this episode was gonna be this dope. Like I know these podcasts are really cool. I was more looking toward the other one because of Nano. What was the other episode called? Nano Cities or something like that. that sounded really cool. A house factory, I was like, oh, that sounds sort of interesting. But I didn't think it was gonna get deep into like my dreams, like my jeez, bro, like damn. Did, let's
The
continue.
bigger thing
Let me
there is
stop
right
talking.
now, I think air rights in
Oh,
New York are really interesting because that's a way of managing density. So the way air rights work is basically there's up to a certain height that you can build in a certain street. And that's what the zoning dictates. If you want to go beyond that, what you can do is you can buy the unused portion of what they're called air rights from other buildings or other properties around you, and then basically stack them up on top to build higher. So those other properties can no longer go as high, but you can go higher. And that's how you see, a lot of super tall buildings in New York.
mm-hmm,
It's not that every building is that tall. It's just that they're buying these air rights and stacking them.
mm,
A similar concept could be applied to manage the zoning in a way where really everyone's needs are met, but it's done in a more fluid way, right? So just as an example, if someone has a view that they don't want blocked by a tall building, that may today be built into the zoning. Right? The zoning may not allow that to happen.
mm-hmm,
But what if instead of building that into the zoning, we instead say actually that's a form of property ownership. You own the right
mm,
to a certain view. At a certain point, if you're offered I don't know $100,000 to give up that view, now all of a sudden okay maybe you do give that up, right?
That's
And
interesting, but we're sort
mm.
of we're now exiting the world of obvious manufacturing type stuff that
Yeah, before they get to the end, I do want to talk about this because this is something I've been thinking about a lot too. Is like when you create a ideal city, right? um, views are really important. People don't realize that, but again, we as humans are environment are products of our environment, just like any other animal. And so, when you grow up and you or whatever, if you live in the area, if you work in the area, and you don't have a good view, that affects your mentality. Like this is documented. It sounds woo woo, but no, this is documented psychology. Like we need to have a view of it doesn't have to be a horizons, but at least like of nature, of water features, of this, that, and the other. Like they've actually documented people's like uh, rate of depression, rate of happiness, all this, that, and the other, when they're different views. When you're in a more sunny area, you're gonna have a different disposition than if you live in an area that's more rainy and stuff like that. Like they literally documented where people who live, who can see like moving water, they're usually more happier, than people who don't, or even you can move to a place where you had no view of any sort of water features, and you move to a place where where you do, and 9 times out of 10 you have, a happier disposition. So views are actually really important, and I was thinking like one of my things that I wanted to do was create a city where every single building or every single living area had a good view of the horizon. I know it's really difficult, but with software you can create simulations where you can kind of you can create like ray tracing where you can see what every view of the every building in the city is looking. And so I don't know what it will look like, but that's something I would really I really wanted to pursue. um well, it didn't have to be every window, but like at least one window, at least one window in every room or every building or every living area, would have that, because it's super important. So I personally don't really agree or want or like the idea of being able to buy out somebody's rights to a view, because the problem with that is it becomes like it becomes similar to today, where you have poor people living in these areas, where you have lived for a long time, and then this, it's a trope. It's a common trope because it's a common type of fact, where people will come in and be like, oh, we want to create a mall here. We want to create a um a, a big high rise here. We're going to buy out this whole area, and they're kind of incentivized to do these bad business moves where they would buy out the areas around it and raise the rents and stuff like that. So the landlord who owns your building starts raising the rent, and now you have to move out, or you have all these problems where the area maybe has some pollution or some random stuff that happens, and then it forces you to move out. This is a common uh thing, that comes from this idea of being able to buy people's rights to property or to this, that, and the other. So being able to buy people's, rights to your view, it sounds good. Like it sounds like, oh, you have the agency, you can choose, whether or not you want to, uh, jump for, that amount of cash. But the truth is that there's a lot of, when you have that ability to do that, then you create sort of incentives for people to do, kind of do bad, to get those rights. So it's kind of, I don't know about that part, but I do agree that being able to have these prefabricated areas and to choose, hey, I want a view, or hey, I want this, that, the other, that allows you to, have a more streamlined regulations and more fluid regulations, which allows you to say, maybe I want to live in an area where there's a lot of noise, because me, I love living in the city, I love that energy, right? Um, Maybe it's just this part of my life. Maybe when I get older, I don't want to live there, so I can move out. But right now, you don't really have that choice of where you live. You sort of had noise, regulations, but it's all very, it's kind of stupid, how it is today. So if you can choose to say, hey, I want to live in an area with more noise or with less noise, or with this type of light, or with this, that, the other, then that makes sense. But you have to be really careful when you start to thread the line of buying people's rights for, this property or this type of view or this type of thing, around your property. But overall, man, this is really, really dope.
Efficient. We're entering the world of smart policy, which, at the end of the day, you're going to have to convince a bunch of people on a board in San Francisco to adopt, even if it makes sense. I mean, I don't know how you go about doing something like that.
I don't either. Yeah,
But I mean, I
that's why
love that
we're
idea.
working on the construction part of the problem.
But I love that idea. I mean, I love the idea of, like, yeah, it's air rights and view rights. If they were actual, not quite tangible assets, but they were real assets with a real value that you could just trade, that would help everything. I mean, that you would have your solution right there. People would be willing to talk to you. It's not just like, no, I won't do this because it's going to take away my view. It's a different question completely. It's, hey, how much money do you want for that view?
Right, and then at a certain point, taking up 10% of your view with a tall building that houses 500 people, there's incredible value being built by housing those 500 people, and you can take a portion of that by giving up part of your view.
Amazing. I'm wondering now, what are you most excited about right now?
I'm really excited about the ability to use software to drive mass customization for a product that has such a huge impact on people's lives. We spend 90% of our time indoors. We spend a ton of time at home. By increasing the quality, affordability, and abundance of housing, we can have a huge impact on people's physical and mental well-being. And the software component.
Before this is about to end, but just real quick on that idea of, again, of views, I just had this thought, like, it might be silly, but it'll be funny if you can have like a city like that's so flexible with its construction methods that if somebody be like, hey, I want this, I want my view, then you can build a building around them. Like maybe the people next to them don't care, or maybe they moving out, you're gonna change that into a gym or something like that. People don't care about a view or whatever, right? You can build a building where it curves around, certain areas, because this layer, this area, or this type of customer, or this type of, living person wants this view. So you can curve the buildings around them, or you can have like magnetic levitation, so it hovers around, stuff like that. I don't know. It's probably a silly thought, but I just thought I'd share it because it's funny. And but that type of creativity, that type of, kind of blue sky thinking allows you to think about, what are the limitations of this, what are the constraints, what are the things that you have to consider when you think about property rights and view rights. So yeah, that's just an interesting idea.
That equation is really exciting because it's what enables homes to not be cookie cutter, to be architect level, really good architect level design homes, but for everyone. It's important because we spend so much time indoors. The quality of the spaces that we live in, they have a huge impact on our physical mental well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to make both higher quality homes that are abundant and
No, no. Oh, come on. Is that my freaking Come on, bro. Is it gonna stop me in the middle of the epic part? I don't know, my hotspot is messing up or something. It's still on. Oh my gosh, literally 26 seconds left. Let me see if I can switch back to my Wi-Fi. I have to pause it again. This is like the epic part. Okay, we're back. Let's go ahead and finish this off real quick.
Find homes, but for everyone. It's important because we spend so much time indoors. The quality of the spaces that we live in, they have a huge impact on our physical mental well-being. Being able to make both higher quality homes that are abundant and everyone can live in, is probably one of the most impactful things we can be doing as a society to improve the quality of lives for everyone, right? Making cities more affordable, making neighborhoods more affordable, and just increasing the quality of the spaces.
You are listening to Anatomy of Next.
Hey, that was so freaking dope. Sorry. That was incredible. Like, I don't have nothing else to say. I said it all during the whole episode, man. I was acting the fool because this is insane. Let me look up the company real quick. It's called Cover. I feel like that's a bad name. It's not really Googleable. Maybe I should put his name in Alexis Rivas. Cover Alexis Rivas. All right, let's share my screen so y'all can see what I'm seeing. As we close this out, we're gonna see if they have a cool website and stuff like that. Maybe I might see if I can work there as a designer or something, right? I don't see the actual website, so I'm gonna go to his Twitter. Usually a good way to find the website. Come on, come on. Okay. Cover.build. Interesting. Let's go. Man, but this is so freaking exciting, man. The fact that this is happening, bro. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I got to figure out some way to get involved with this because this is absolutely incredible. This is literally my dreams come true, man. Like one of my dreams, not all of them. Like obviously, there's a lot of things I want to do, but in the world. But this is one of the most amazing podcasts I've listened to in a long time. One of the most amazing and world-changing, game-changing ideas I've really heard about and seen. Website is loading up ever so slowly because of my stupid hotspot, Wi-Fi, whatever it is, not working correctly. Very sorry. I don't have anything else on. Like I closed all my other tabs, all my other windows because of this to do this podcast, do this stream, and it's still giving me issues. Okay, here we go. Oh, that looks very nice. See that? See, I don't like the straight lines type of thing. Like I'm not a fan of the minimalistic, the you know, hard line, white, and all that stuff. But like you said, you can choose how you want your house to be. Um, like all this glass is not for me. This is not for me. But I would like to see what are the limitations, what are the things that is pretty cool. But again, I don't like the lines on. I like mine, a little curvy, a little elegance and stuff like that. Like I don't mind Victorian age. That's pretty cool. It's not bad. But I got to play around with my own type of designs because I like weird stuff. So I would like to see, what you can do. How do you build? Let me move this out the way. Definitely going to look at their building, their careers. I'm at building system. Here we go. Life-size Lego blocks. That's exactly what I'm talking about, bro. Installation structure, waterproofing, electrical, and connectors already installed. Without cranes or heavy machinery. That's so dope. Look at that. See, I think they should have like a builder on their site where you can build like your dream house. And you can even create like a whole wait list of people just building out like their dream houses. And then, people can maybe pay for this, that, the other. So that way you can get your monies up, your finances up to pay for more advanced construction methods and stuff like that, more advanced prefabrications and everything like that. Um, Not saying take people's money, if you're not going to build it like right then and there, but you can create a wait list, because it's important to create like a hype for this sort of things to get the word out there that this is possible. $250 for flat lots. Well, what? Seems really cheap. Okay, here we go. $20,000 for flat lot. What the world? Permits. Okay. You got different steps. You got your assessment, and then you pay for. Oh, you pay this if it's just like land. If you just have land. Um, there's all the permits for your project. Okay. Some codes. I wonder what all this like comes out to be on the average. How it compares to a regular house, to buying a regular house. Because like a normal house might cost you. Um, I don't know. I'm not even gonna get into that because it highly changes based on the where you are. Not even gonna get into it. But yeah, this is super dope. But I would like to see a builder. Maybe I can do that. I can be like, hey, let's as a UX designer, a product designer, I can build like help you all build a builder portal where people can come in and build their dream house, and you can take their deposits or something like that. I guess they probably have permission based, not permission, but like it said, see if you're qualified or whatever. So I'm guessing they have to have, they have to have certain permits and everything in place because the current landscape is so, frustrating, so archaic that, excuse me, it often um stipers are what's the term, blocks is a barrier to innovation, because people have to spend a dumb amount of money just trying to figure out permits and all that stuff. So track lighting, appliances. Oh, that's interesting. Sustainable, design your dream space. So I don't want to put my home address on the video, sorry y'all, but um I'll check it out later, see how that works. But yeah, this is really dope. Again, I want to see the limitations of this. Like I always like to go to the limits. Like, what can you actually build? Like, does it have to be? Because I think that's a very big limiter. Like, not everybody likes those straight line, minimalistic, you know, quote unquote modern day, designs and stuff like that. It seems very cold. It seems very kind of dead. Um, for people. So I would like to see if they can construct things that are more, I don't want to say traditionalist, but are more, comfortable, that feel more comfortable, more like they said, lived in, right? if you want to create your dream house, maybe you want some piece of like a Victorian era thing, or maybe you want some aspects of shoot, you can go freaking great Greek, you know. You can say I want some Greek aspects of it. I want some Roman kind of cathedral type of architecture, whatever. So maybe you can explore these different types of designs with it. So I would like to see the limitations of that. Um, but yeah, this is super dope. I'm glad I did this, and I'm gonna end this here. This is probably a really long episode because the amount of times I was stopping and starting with this. But man, this was exciting. This was incredible. Really glad I did this. I hope you, whoever watching this, listening to this, I think I'm gonna release this as a podcast, even though you can't see like me looking at their website at the end. But you can always go on buildcover.com. They have buildcover.com or cover.build to look at their website yourself. Um, yeah, this is so cool. Show their team here. Quite a bit of people, current openings, of course. But I'm gonna use the canvas method, use like pitch, just you know, maybe I might design something kind of on a simple level, like, hey, maybe we can create something like this, and see where that goes. I don't, because I'm not a senior designer. I can't design a whole portal by myself. But maybe I don't know. Maybe I can inspire them. I can say, hey, this is a opportunity that you all can pursue. So we'll see where this goes. This is so dope. This is so freaking dope. Dreams do come true, y'all. So I'm really excited to see. I see everything here. I don't know how the next episode is gonna top this. I don't know if it can, but probably gonna do it tomorrow, maybe. But yeah, thanks for watching. Check out that website. Check out this company. Check out any other companies doing anything like this. I know there's another one called Blockable that's doing something somewhat like this. It's kind of a different type of method, but they're doing these kind of prefabricated factory built housing units as well. So, but yeah, this is so exciting. We live in an amazing time, and I look forward to seeing how I can help get more into this field, or just change the world, man, with these cool ass shit. But yeah, thanks again, and have a good day. Bye bye.